So my name is Azadeh Zabetti, and I am here on behalf of the Iranian community in London, and we're here gathered outside of 10 Downing Street in order to bring the voice of over 80 million Iranian people who are living under a despotic and dictatorial regime, and that is the theocracy that is the Iranian regime. We're here to echo their voices, to show our support and solidarity for our people, and the chants on the streets of Iran are no to the Shah and no to the monarch, and no to the clerical regime of the mullahs. So my name is Azadeh Zabetti, and I am here on behalf of the Iranian community in London, and we're here gathered outside of 10 Downing Street in order to bring the voice of over 80 million Iranian people who are living under a despotic and dictatorial regime, and that is the theocracy that is the Iranian regime. We're here to echo their voices, to show our support and solidarity for our people, and the chants on the streets of Iran are no to the Shah and no to the monarch, and no to the clerical regime of the mullahs.
Standing here today, we are aware that more than 40 years ago, Khomeini betrayed the hope of the millions of people of Iran. Khomeini kidnapped their freedom, equality, and democracy from Iran. As a result of Khomeini's betrayal, Iran now operates under a government 100 times worse than that of the Shah. However, we must also keep in mind that the Iranian people, as demonstrated by their slogans during the countrywide uprising last year, do not wish to go back to the past. Rather, they seek to end the oppression and establish a democratic republic in Iran. Today, the Iranian people's craving for freedom is evident in the unwavering determination of the resistance units. By exposing the head of the snake, the resistance units shown to the world the true color of the regime, leaving no justification to continue of appeasement policies with the despicable mullahs regime. Our purpose here is to convey the message of the Iranian people and the resistance units to the global community. The message is direct. When avenues to freedom are blocked by the criminal rulers, the people and the pioneering youth have the right to defend themselves against the brutal oppression by any means necessary. What is truly the solution to this regime that has brought repression to its peak in Iran and has set the Middle East on fire and affected the whole world? I tell you now, overthrow, overthrow, overthrow. I'll keep my section short as we have a number of prominent political figures, lawyers, activists, who will give their view on Iran. First, we have a group of young Iranians who are passionate about their homeland, and Azadeh Zabetti, who is the spokeswoman for this group. Although she was born and raised in Iran, she became familiar with the PMOI and embraced its objectives while living in the UK. Please welcome Azadeh to the stage.
and to pay tribute to the courage of tens of thousands of brave women, men, and young people who have paid the highest price to bring back freedom and democracy that was stolen from the Iranian people 45 years ago in 1979 by the religious dictatorship. We have hope for a free and democratic future in Iran because of the courage of those involved in the protests and strikes throughout Iranian society. Despite the long years of nightmares since 1979, there is hope because there is and always has been an organized democratic opposition movement, the NCRI, led by Mrs. Mariam Rajavi. The world knows that the regime is holding on to power through repression using the judiciary, intelligence and security services, parliament and police against the Iranian people. Protesters are killed in the streets and arrested and face torture in the regime's prisons. The lawyers who defend them are themselves arrested and imprisoned in contravention of the United Nations principles on the independence of lawyers. As a member of the international legal community, I support the courageous lawyers who defend the people and pay the price. There is no independent judiciary or fair trials in Iran, and arbitrary and bogus charges, as well as forced confessions obtained under torture, are used to silence dissenting and pro-democracy voices. The failure of Western democracies and the international community to hold the regime to account for these atrocities and their policy decisions to accommodate the regime's leaders has fostered a culture of impunity in Iran. The international community stands by while the regime executes prisoners who have protested against the regime. Involvement in Iran in regional conflict is clear, but the world community does nothing to stop the regime. The massacre of 30,000 political prisoners in 1988 is a crime of such magnitude that it must be exposed at the highest and widest levels. And the perpetrators, including President Ibrahim Raisi, must be brought to justice. A recent court case and ruling in Sweden under universal jurisdiction showed that there are legal avenues available to hold the regime officials responsible for the 1988 massacre and hold them responsible and accountable for their crimes against humanity. The UK government must now recognise this opportunity and back the campaigns pursued by the regime's victims and the democratic opposition, the NCRI, to secure justice and to end impunity in Iran. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Iran has highlighted in his latest report to the General Assembly steps that are being taken and which should be supported by the UK government. Here we are outside Downing Street calling upon the UK government to do what it must do. Here are just two examples which show what must be done. We call on the UK government to support the complaint filed in 2021 against President Raisi in the UK and Scotland by surviving victims of the 1988 massacre. The government facilitate prosecutions. It should do that, it must facilitate prosecution of regime officials in the UK under universal jurisdiction, as their crimes are well documented and reported in the UK government's own legal reasoning for imposing human rights sanctions. We also call on the UK government to take up the appalling human rights dossier of the regime to the United Nations Security Council for an immediate referral to the International Criminal Court or to a special international tribunal for prosecution of those responsible. The UK government supports the mandate of the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Iran, and therefore must also back his recommendations and secure their implementation in order to end impunity in Iran. I end by saying that we in the international legal community, on the anniversary of the 1979 revolution in Iran, ask the UK to stand with the Iranian people by delivering on its stated commitment to hold the regime to account and to bring justice to the Iranian people. Thank you.